One of the things we did is we took all the original gauges out and we put some Speedhut gauges in here. So we have water, oil, volts, and over here we took out the AC grill and put the fuel in there. Then we got the speedometer, it's kind of hard to see, and the tach. So what I'm doing now is I'm just wiring up the wires from the gauges. I'm going to turn it around in a minute. These are for the blinkers and then the high beam, and this is the dashboard or the dash lights, ground, and this is the keyed ignition hot, and then the constant hot for the speedo. So let me flip it around and take a look at the back side. Okay, went ahead and drilled a hole. A little hole right there. Gonna stick this pot in there and see if she fits. There we go. Okay, went ahead and put the washer and the nut on there, and I'm gonna take a deep socket and just hand tighten it down. Doesn't require a lot of torque or anything like that, so just nice and snug. That's it. Nice and pretty. Where's the knob on it? There we go. Right on. Here's from the back. You can see how we mounted the gauges in and back side of the glove box. I had put this piece in here on the passenger side because we're not going to have air. And I sprayed it black on the other side, so if you look into the grill, you're not going to see anything but a black little sponge. So I did just to block the hole. Here's the other side over here for the fuel. How we mounted it. And, it has the adjustment button here for the fuel to set that up. And the speedo. Here's the antenna. I'm going to mount that up on top once we get the dash in. It's got a magnet on it, which is kind of cool. Let's see what else. I don't know. I got the inverter here for the dash lights set up here, and I'm gonna run these up to the fuse panel to get some power. I did run an additional fuse block in the car to get ignition and then constant power. So half is ignition and then half is constant if I ever need it. So I got to go ahead and make this stuff all nice and pretty. And that's my fuse panel I got here working, and the hot coming in off the battery with the fusible link, ground's coming in with the ground bus. Pretty much everything's grounded. You know, in the older cars, grounds is notorious for problems with gauges and whatever, just because everything's old. So I've run grounds back to the rear tail lights, front lights, although there is a frame ground too that can be used. I did run grounds to the back just to make sure we got good grounds, not relying on the chassis ground so much. So I gotta clean all this up next, run the horn, and then the headlight beams. The switch on the 240Z column, it's not working well for the high beam. I have to show you that. The high beam switch has a mechanism like this, and what here is broken is part of it that goes on the bottom part. Basically, when you push the plunger in, I don't know if you can see it or not, it swivels. And when you pull up the arm on the indicator arm on the steering column, and that's going to flicker the high beams. So we're not going to use that. I'm going to bypass it and get a foot switch and just put it down on the foot switch, since the car's not stock anyway on any of the wiring. You know, I did use some of the connectors by taking off the connectors and reusing with different wires, but Other than that, the whole thing is rewired. And if you ever want to deal with stock wiring, there it is. It's out of the car. So this is all the stock wiring. From what I can gather, they pretty much run a lot through the hazard switch on this Datsun. So we eliminated that aspect of it and put in a fuse panel and made it more modern. And so this is all going to be scrapped. Some of the connectors on here still can be used, but you have to take all the pins out with the right tool. Can reuse the stuff. Still good. So on the battery, we have a circuit breaker here, which will turn on the power. Got it off right now. From the battery, circuit breaker down here, down to the starter solenoid. I don't know if you can see that or not. I just use a Ford starter solenoid. This way we got one wire running down to the starter, and I'm going to run this off to the panel push button to trigger the starter solenoid. I did run another bus over here for the hot. I got the fans and the headlights and the 10 gauge with a 14 gauge fusible link going into the fuse panel inside to keep things safe. That's one thing you always want to use is fusible links, because if your alternator doesn't stop charging or overcharges, it's going to blow or take things out. So that's your best protection, is fusible links or fuses, some sort of circuit breakers along the way in the path of all that stuff. So it's kind of the setup we have here. It's going to work pretty well, I think. Yep, that's it. Headlights are all in position, wired. I think you guys seen a previous video on that. Got the relays up here in the front by the radiator that's going to be here. The lights are all in place. Dogs are in place. Side markers are going to be clear with the LED lights. Turn signals are all hooked up. Fans are hooked up. I just got to run another rivet down here for the grounds, and we'll be able to place those in. They work. So far so good. Here's the switch panel that we're using. It's also a Skillard insert that goes into that dash, and I think we bought this off of JEGS, the panel itself. But there's a start button, ignition. A second one is a fuel pump, fans, hazards. The fifth one is going to be for the windshield wipers. We're going to put a, well, we're not sure. I'm not sure about that yet. Might just leave it open. The lights on the sixth one. And you can see what it looks like without a dash. It actually comes out pretty easily. It's kind of cool. Pretty easy to work on this way. But there's not much room in these cars, and I think you guys know it's could be very cramped in here to get things done. Real quick, what I did do, what I liked about the dome lights, is I got the stock dome light hooked up and working, but I had some LED lights underneath the dash here, one here and one on the other side. So once the dash is in, you open up the door, shine some light on the subject. Pretty nice, pretty cool, simple. You close the door and it's gonna go out. It's kind of neat. This does work push button if you wanted to turn it on, to do view something or whatever. And the lights come on over here too, which is kind of cool. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this part up. This is pretty much done to my liking, and we'll leave it over here for right now. I'm going to start cleaning up the inside wiring some, and I'm going to put this in after that's done. I got to run the high beam like I said, and then the foot switch for the high beam, and then the horn, and then we'll put this baby in, set it in there. Thanks for watching.